What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of On the Road to Victory. I am your host, Jimmy Smith, and I hope you're all having yourselves a fantastic day, fantastic week. Just wanted to remind you, the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Oh, I cannot stop saying that. Truly beautiful. Two-time Super Bowl champions. Really has a nice ring to it. I've been enjoying this past week and a half, and I hope you have been doing the same. Now, been getting everything ready for sicko season. All kinds of information is coming your way. Loads of information. But we try to do this, with how things are going. So we know that the coaching stuff is happening. We got a couple of moves we're going to talk about in a second. All kinds of stuff. I'm going to have the cap stuff for you. All the free agents. The draft stuff's coming. So do not fear. Sicko season is here. And I appreciate all of you taking the time during this sicko season. Appreciate you hitting that like button, sharing, subscribing, all the things you're doing to support the channel. Cannot thank you enough. But let's jump right into this and let's talk about now some roster things that happened. And I'll go over this with a lot of the reserve future signings. I'm going to put everything all in one. But Nick Gates was let go. And these are the guys on the practice squad that did not get reserve future contracts. So they will not be back in the offseason, at least as of now. So Blossom Game, Book, Harris, Morrow, Phillips, all have contracts that expire. Now, coaching news, which is what we're here to talk about, the Eagles lose TJ Paganetti. He joins Kellen Moore on the Saints staff, and not sure what his role is just yet, but he was the run game specialist and assistant O-line coach, learning from Jeff Stoutland, who is behind him in that picture there. So got some great knowledge. We'll see if he's able to do something there to help out the Saints and that atrocious team. But best of luck to him. It's always unfortunate to lose coaches, but when you're good, these things happen, and these coaches are looking. This is their career to keep improving and getting better, so you can't be mad at them. And then the move we all knew, which was coming, Doug Nussmeier as the offensive coordinator for the Saints here. And look, everywhere Kellen Moore goes, Doug Nussmeier follows. We talked about this, and usually Moore is the OC, and he's the QB coach. Well, Moore is now the head coach, needs an offensive coordinator. Doug Nussmeier gets that opportunity. So the Eagles will also be looking for a quarterbacks coach. And, some of these guys that are thrown in here are going to be candidates. So we'll talk about that here. And if you guys have anything on your mind, anyone that you would like to talk about, whatever it is, love to hear from you. But let's jump right into this bad boy. I've got 32 candidates to talk about here and my top 5. Love to hear your top guys, your reasonings, whatever it is. Well, let's rock and roll with these 32 offensive coordinator candidates. And you remember last year, obviously, in this situation, but we also needed a defensive coordinator. So we did 2 separate shows on it. But I also gave you a bunch then. We talked about all these guys. We talked about Kellen Moore, this, that, the other thing. Well, a lot of these guys have found jobs. Some of these guys are offensive coordinators in other places. Didn't want to put too many of those players or coaches on here, but I did add some. But let's take a look. Threw in some college coaches there for you guys as well. Now, when it comes to staying in-house, you got Kevin Patullo, Jamal Singleton there. Singleton was being talked to by Kellen Moore and the Saints here, but hopefully he just stays as that assistant head coach and running back coach for the Eagles. Does a damn fine job at it. Now, you can see a plethora of names here. Josh McCown doing wonderful things there with the Vikings. He was pretty much like a player coach while he was here at the end of his career, and then did the same for the Texans when he left. You can see I did add Mike LaFleur. Now, that's somebody who is an offensive coordinator that does not have play calling duties because of Sean McVay there. So maybe this would be kind of a promotion for him, being able to call the plays here. So I added him to the list. Bobby Slowick there. He just got hired by the Dolphins as their pass game coordinator, but still an opportunity. These guys, wouldn't hesitate, most of them, to take that job to, progress in their career. Now, you can see I got guys like Byron Leftwich, Darrell Bevel again, Jared Johnson, who we've talked about over and over again. I really like Jared Johnson. Maybe he could be that quarterback coach if he is looking to, take on the same job with the Eagles. I don't know that he would do that, but we'll talk about maybe why that could be here shortly. You see T. Martin, a former Philadelphia Eagle. He is somebody that we talked about as well last year, and wonderful things with Lamar Jackson there. I think, he would be a great option. Chad O'Shea, talked about him last year. So a lot of familiar names that we talked about. Nathan Skilhaze there with the Rams pass game specialist. Thad Lewis, another former player, the Buccaneers quarterback coach. You got Frank Reich, Doug Peterson, Marcus Brady, Jim Caldwell, all familiar names there at the bottom of that list. And look, Dougie P, not sure he wants to come here and, be the OC for a good old Nick Sirianni here. But I think, obviously I get people have, a lot of adoration for these guys. Frank Reich, obviously Marcus Brady was here a couple of years ago in assistant role. Jim Caldwell, very familiar with Sirianni there. Then you talk about Anthony Lynn, also familiar with him. And then you talk about the Chiefs QB coach. You've got Thomas Brown. You got Yarber there, Cam Turner, Pete Carmichael, Ronald Curry, Mike McCoy, Getsy, Greasy, and Pep Hamilton. So here's the college guys. Pep Hamilton hadn't been coaching for the last couple of years, formerly with the Texans, but currently the Maryland offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. But then I added some offensive coordinators. Will Stein from Oregon, obviously doing wonderful things there with Oregon. Kotelenicki there with Penn State. You've got Notre Dame's Denbrock. You got Charlie Weiss Jr. over there at Mississippi. And then just to appease to people, Lincoln Riley, and not having the greatest of years right now, but I think somebody that obviously familiarity with Jalen Hurts. He's done some great things with quarterbacks. So if he's looking to jump to the NFL and the opportunity presents itself, I'm sure he would jump right on that. But there's a lot of great names there, a lot of possibilities. And the Eagles don't have to necessarily look for a veteran, play caller. They could take a risk with somebody who hasn't before because of Jalen Hurts' growth and his ability, to do things on the line. But also, this is going to be a unit that works together. Sirianni, the offensive coordinator, all of the coaches on the offensive staff, and Jalen Hurts. So maybe you do take a stab at somebody who, is fresh or hasn't been an offensive coordinator before. So lot of possibilities I showed you there and way more. So you guys have any names I didn't mention, love to hear from you. But I'm going to show you my top 5. Love to hear your top 5, top 3, top 1, whatever it is. Let's jump right into it. Take a look and start it off with that inexperience I talk about. What about a guy like Josh McCown? And, we talked about this when he was retiring, definitely getting into coaching. And sure enough, he did with the Panthers and most recently now with the Vikings there, doing, fantastic things there for obviously, the Vikings, Panthers, maybe not so much, but getting his feet wet. He's only been doing it for a couple of years here. So it would be pretty risky here, but it's a guy that's played the position. He knows how to play quarterback. Now, he's never been, an offensive coordinator, never been a play caller. So, and again, he's been a play caller in the sense of being a quarterback. So I think that's helpful. Maybe, Sirianni feels like he can mold him and do some things as well with Jalen Hurts. And again, McCown was here a couple of years ago, and we remember, obviously, kind of took on that quarterback, coach role. So I think for him, sky's the limit in his coaching career. Not so sure it happens just now, especially with this Eagles team, but I actually wouldn't be against it. I really think he has a bright future with coaching here, and best of luck to Josh McCown, whatever goes down there. Now, up next, I'm not so sure we can make this happen, but Bobby Slowick, if you could convince him, and look, right now, he's just a senior passing game coordinator, and that's a great move for Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins there. They've got Darrell Bevell there, Slowick, really getting some bright minds. And this is somebody who was just released because of the Texans' struggles there. Think, they have a pretty ass offensive line. So if you would put him as the offensive coordinator here, with the line we have, the talent we have, I think this is a very bright young man who has a very bright future. You can see he started with the Commanders back in 2011, worked with the Niners for a few years there, and then obviously we talked about the Texans and now with the Dolphins. But if you could pry him away, go do that. I would think this would be an amazing hire. If you get Bobby Slowick, I'm going to be jumping through the roof. So go ahead, Nick. Go ahead, Howie. Work your magic. Make something happen. But I did want to add somebody from the college ranks. And it's probably not the guy you want to hear about. You're probably thinking of from Penn State or Oregon or Mississippi, anywhere else but Maryland. And Pep Hamilton, this is somebody we've talked about for a couple of years here. I really like what, he brings to the game. And this is somebody who's been coaching for a very long time. Started in 1997 as the quarterbacks coach. Took him a couple of years. He moved up to offensive coordinator there at Howard. But he was in the NFL in his next job with the Jets. You can see a few jobs there. Then he went on to the Niners, the Bears, back to college, back to the NFL, back to college, XFL, back to the NFL. and, now back to college. So he's been all over, but the dude is a bright mind. And I think, you add him with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, I think this offense would continue to flourish and would not miss a beat. So I'd be all for Pep Hamilton, and I talk about him every damn year. Love the guy. And I think this is somebody that doesn't necessarily, he has that experience that you need, but doesn't necessarily jump off the books for most people. But I would be ecstatic with Pep Hamilton. Now, up next, a guy we talked about last year, Darrell Bevell. And, this guy's been playing forever. Obviously he used to work with that weirdo Brett Favre. He's done, miraculous things in this league. And I think that he's somebody who's proved himself, been coaching for a long time as well. And, he worked his way up into the NFL with the Packers there, then the Vikings, Seahawks, the Lions. And, he was even the interim head coach there for the Lions for a minute. The Jags he was with just most recently. And now, Dolphins most recently, but before that, in a bigger role with the Jags, where he also became the interim head coach. Now, as a quarterback's coach and passing game coordinator, he and obviously Slowick will be working together. So if we can take one of those guys from the Dolphins, consider me happy as hell. I would love it. I think that would be a fantastic move. Now, my number one, do not get mad at me, but Kevin Patullo. And this is something we talked about last couple of years. This is somebody that, Sirianni has kept close. And obviously this is somebody he really likes. And you talk about what Kellen Moore is doing here. I think this keeps him safe here, hopefully. I would hate to see Patullo becoming the quarterback's coach for the Saints or something. But, you can see this dude, quite a history here. And look, I think for me, the resume speaks for itself. He's gotten work. And, yeah, he hasn't been an offensive coordinator yet. But just like with Brian Johnson, look, I thought he got a bad rep. And, yes, he stayed a little stagnant. I thought we really should have done some things differently. But I think this allows you to continue doing what you do here. And nobody expects, you do the same exact thing. But you kind of already know what the strengths and the weaknesses and what you guys have been working on. And you're going to bring your own ideas. But I think Kevin Patullo, who's been here since 2021, obviously for me, I think is the perfect candidate. And, obviously you're going to hear that from a lot of people, but I truly believe it because of that continuity. Knowing, and look, you can't say, oh, well, Brian Johnson didn't pan out, so he can't. No, man, you learn from your last mistakes and you continue to grow, develop. And, well, if he doesn't work out, you fire him and you find somebody else. But no, I think that any of those options for me, I would be ecstatic about. And putting this together, I almost had Darrell Bevell at one, almost had Slowick at one. I was moving things around, losing my mind. But I think keeping that continuity would be great for me. I don't think that you necessarily have to go take somebody from the Dolphins, but I wouldn't be against either of those guys. Honestly, like the top three right there that I just mentioned are just like all 1A, B, C, because I'd be happy. And honestly, any of those guys, and then even more, some of those guys that, we mentioned, and I'll show you the list one more time. You could probably pick me 15 names that I would be pretty happy with. So even those college guys we talked about, and maybe some of you college nuts, you're a friend. You're a fan of one of, different teams I haven't mentioned. You got an offensive coordinator, a quarterback's coach, whatever, that you think would be a great choice. I'd love to hear from you. But that's all I've got for you right now. And again, throughout this week, I'm going to be putting out a bunch of content when I have early days at work or whenever I can find time. We'll be talking about all of what's coming next is we're going to be talking about all of the Eagles free agents, who I think should stay or go. Then we're going to be talking about how the Eagles can create cap space. And we'll talk about their cap space they have, because I know it's been torturing people, but I really want to see all these people claim to know how to do the cap. Well, then show me. I want to see if you really have all these numbers before I put out these numbers. But no, I just really haven't had time. So I'll get to it. But been patiently waiting for people to come out with numbers that aren't made up. But I have definitely seen the people losing their minds, making up numbers, stats, talking themselves through it because they just can't handle the Eagles as Super Bowl champions. And let me tell you, I love every second of that. Hope you're all enjoying every second of being Super Bowl champions. Do not let them forget all the trash they talked. Remind them who the best team in the NFL is, and we'll continue doing that and talking about how we will be the next dynasty in the NFL all sicko season, just like I talked about all of last sicko season, how we were going to get that first Super Bowl in this dynasty. Let's talk about how we can get that second, and it starts with the coaching, all the little things, the practice squad guys, everything. I will keep you up to date with all of it because every little thing matters, and I know you sickos know what I'm talking about. So let's get ready for an insane sicko season, and let's go win that trophy one more time. And look, you guys have any thoughts, questions, anything, you know I'm always here for you. Doesn't have to be about the Birds, though. You guys got anything going on, always here for you. Love each and every one of you. Appreciate you hitting that like button, sharing, subscribing, all the support you show to the channel. I cannot thank you enough. But I hope you all have yourselves a great rest of your night. Until next time, I am Jimmy Smith, and this is On the Road to Victory. You all stay safe out there, and as always, go Birds!